Welcome to Signature Required. It is intended for Tennesseans by Tennesseans. The heart of a Tennessean, the volunteer state, is serve, and we do so largely without self-promotion.
And these are genuine people that get up every day and want to make art, or want to educate the nations, or want to have a heart of love in a way that makes a difference.
Learn from 50 years of experience, take a nugget away, and then go share it with a friend.
Dr. LaTonya Mouzon, you serve as the Executive Director of Arise2Read, a Memphis-based literacy nonprofit. Thank you for coming to Signature Required.
Thank you for having me.
Go ahead.
I've been at Arise2Read now for just about 1 year, and it's been an amazing ride. Before this, I was in Southern Illinois working at a Title I school district, and I'd been there for 13 years. Prior to that, I'd been here working at Memphis City Schools, which is what it was called at that time, and I worked there for 8 years. So this was a wonderful opportunity for me to return where it all began for me.
Well, for context, Spence and I were at the National Prayer Breakfast, and we heard your founder share a little bit in a literacy seminar about what Arise2Read does. And I was caught by what Arise2Read does, and I really want to get to that in a second. But I tell you what, my heart became instantly burdened for the issue of literacy at large and what is happening with children in America and specifically Tennessee. So can you help me frame up a little bit about why we should even think about literacy as an issue?
Well, first of all, literacy is given to everyone as an opportunity to acquire. Everyone has the opportunity through public schools, whether they can afford more or not, to be able to become literate citizens. And if they're not able to attain literacy, they have adverse consequences in life. And consequences, when I say that, that's just the result of something. So those consequences can be desirable or undesirable. And if students aren't able to become literate by the time they leave third grade, it's likely that the consequences will be adverse, undesirable consequences. For example, low-paying jobs, hard time to maintain those jobs, public assistance requirements, possibly even run-ins with the law. There are just any number of things that could happen, teen pregnancies, so many things that could be a possibility if and when students are not able to become literate, one of which most likely to happen is that they will drop out of high school.
I was going to say, the dropout rates are really troubling because if a child doesn't finish high school or GED or some type of program, their opportunity to get certain levels of jobs or do certain things with their family really becomes capped.
Absolutely. And anymore in American society today, a bachelor's degree is considered what used to be the high school diploma. So imagine what that truly means for a person who does not acquire that high school diploma. There are very little opportunities.
I think there's a common misconception about people that struggle to read. And I think it's important to note that there are no illiterate children. There are children that haven't learned how to read yet. There are only illiterate adults.
Correct.
And we may think, well, if you can't read, that's your own fault. This country pays for your education. You can go to any public school. And I think what I'm learning really pulls back the veil of these kids are coming in. There's a lot of struggle in their life. There could be a lot of trauma keeping them from learning how to read. And if they get behind in the third grade, it can set the whole trajectory of their life. By 10, if you can't read, it can change the course of their entire path.
Absolutely. So you bring up a very important topic, trauma. What we do know in education now is that trauma impacts the brain. And it takes quite a few brain skills, brain activities in order to be able to read. So, and then you also talked about they come to school with those. And with that being said, today's school or a classroom is not like what classrooms were 10, 20, or 30 years ago. So teachers have to be a social worker. They have to be a mom. They have to be lovingly kind. They have to provide clothing. If they come late, they have to make sure they have something to eat. Or if they come and they haven't slept, they have to give an opportunity for them to rest. So children come with so many factors that attribute to whether or not they're ready for school that morning that teachers have to be aware of.
And a lot of that is with outside the student's control.
Absolutely. And with that, all those factors, a teacher has to be able to discern and determine, where do I start with this child today? And the most important thing that I think teachers may or may not come into the profession ready to do is that they have to build very strong relationships with their children. And the key to success with a child who's burdened with so many factors stacked against them before they enter the classroom is a loving relationship with someone within the school.
Because that's one of the number one predictors of future success, right? Is if they have one person that shows interest, consistent, stable interest
Absolutely.
in the child, which is something you work on at Arise2Read. So can you tell me a little bit about what you guys do?
Sure. At Arise2Read, we use one-to-one tutoring opportunities, 30 minutes twice a week for second grade students to build their foundational literacy skills. And when we talk about foundational literacy skills, we don't cover them all. We focus on what we would call sight words. And the reason we focus on sight words is because 70 to 90% of written text, any written text that you might find anywhere, is sight words.
So for people that don't have little ones at home and aren't working on this day in, day out, can you tell us what is a sight word?
Okay, so the simplest definition of a sight word is a word that you should know on sight. As soon as you see it, you should know what that word is. We at Arise2Read work with Fry's 1,000 sight words. Fry did some extensive research on what words would be essential or important to know. And with his research, he discovered that students should learn 100 words per grade level through 10th grade. And each year, as they learn those 100 words would have been words that would be common to books that they would be reading at that level. And then by the time they get to 10th grade, they should know all 1,000. It is likely that when people are good readers, they know those 1,000 far before that. And so we spend our time focusing on the 1,000 Fry sight words. We don't limit our second graders to the 300 that they should know.
Because they're limitless, truly.
Correct.
Yes.
So we take them all as far as they can go. If they can go to the 1,000, we'll take them to the 1,000. But again, our focus is making sure they know them on sight right away. No hesitation.
What a confidence builder for these children that you're spending these small chunks of time, really manageable amounts of times, working on words that they can learn, get into their system, and then go back to the classroom and immediately read and share with their friends.
Absolutely. What I have noticed in doing this work, I get the privilege to also do it with students, is that they are so excited to see you. So when they get to the classroom, they're lined up. And most of the time,
Wait, you're saying they're lined up to
they're
read.
lined up to come in.
These
Yes.
are students that don't know how to read well, probably are adverse to reading in other places, but they're lining up to meet with their
They're
mentors.
lining up to read. They're at the door, and they're peeking around the corner to see if I'm there.
Oh.
So they look forward to it because they know that I'm the one person that's going to be able to give them that one-on-one opportunity every single week, just me and her for 30 minutes, focusing on exactly what she needs. And when I was in the classroom, that was very rare. I was able to spend 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 time with my students in small groups, but rarely was I able to do that one-to-one. And what those opportunities do is not only do they build that confidence that you talked about, it establishes the school as a special place because we go during the school day. And the impact that has is increased attendance.
I was going to say, I bet it's really fighting the post-pandemic absenteeism crisis that we're seeing in elementary schools.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when they're that little, when they have an aversion to school, they can't put the words to it that I'm struggling, or they can't put the words to the mom if the mom is saying, you're not going today. They can't say, oh, I want to be there because I have to read. But they will say, I can't miss Arise to Read.
So you're a mentor. How many kiddos do you serve?
I serve 2. So every volunteer serves 2 children. For example, if we have 500, I'm just throwing that number out there. If we serve 500 children, we'll have 500 mentors. And each mentor, or coach as we call them, serves 2 children. So for the first 30 minutes, I serve one little girl, and then the next 30 minutes, I serve another.
Oh, and then do you get to stay with them year over year? Do you guys really focus on that second grade year?
We really focus on the second grade year, and the reason is there's something that's called the third grade reading gap. And what we want to do with Arise to Read is avoid that reading gap in third grade if we can. And here's the reason why. In third grade, students begin to read so that they can learn, as opposed to kindergarten, first and second grade, where they're still learning how to read. So if we can catch them in second grade and really, really reinforce the sight words, then they have a greater opportunity to succeed in third grade because they will have those down.
I think it's really interesting that you're focusing on the sight words because I was working on those with my son recently, and I have one son that loves to read. He's begging for me to tutor him and teach him how to read. And then I have a daughter that has dyslexia.
Yeah.
And sitting down and teaching her to read, I honestly felt like I failed as a mom because I didn't know it was so hard for her. I didn't understand why it wasn't coming as easy. And I'd say, hey, look at this, memorize this, we can do this. And I remember her breaking down and crying one day. I thought I was being gentle. And she said, Mama, I just can't.
Yes.
I just can't do it. And this sweet girl is now a 6th grader, and she still struggles to read aloud. Her greatest nightmare is to be told to read aloud. And she has had all the tutors and all the help in the world. And so I can only imagine a student coming in with some of these struggles that may be known, may be unknown, and their biggest fear on earth is reading aloud in front of someone. And you guys are taking away the stigma of that 30 minutes at a time.
Absolutely. So the goal is to establish that one-to-one safe space. And we have to spend time building a relationship with them. So we don't just meet them today and jump into
And start
the
flashing
work.
out flashcards.
No,
right?
we get
Okay.
to know each other. I learn a little bit about their family, and then I share with them about my family, that I talk to them about what they want to become, and I make a connection between what they want to become and what we're going to do together and how that can help them. I also remind them about what they said they wanted to do as we do our work. I catch up with them if we're getting ready to have spring break, so I won't see them for a week. And when they get back, I'm going to ask them, what did you do? They want to know that they matter outside of these words. And so I make them very human. And sometimes in school, unfortunately, it can feel more about the work than it feels about the individuals.
Well, because teaching has completely changed. Like you said, teachers have to wear so many hats.
Not to mention the level of accountability when it comes to testing. So it's more difficult to give that time and attention to each individual student.
Well, and I bet as a mentor or a coach, a buddy, you're also taking in some of these kids have great weeks and weekends and will tell you funny things about their time off school. But I bet sometimes you get some really heavy stuff laid on your lap that you don't know what to do with.
One of the things that we do encourage our coaches to do is if they get heavy information that they don't know what to do, it is important to report that to our program specialist, which is the person who's over our coaches, and the program specialist has the contact in the school who they would report it to.
So how do you find these precious souls that are willing to give an hour twice a week to these kids?
At Arise2Read, we partner with local businesses as well as foundations and churches. So when we need precious, lovingly kind individuals to go in and support these kids, that's where we go. We say, we're looking for someone just like you. Anyone can do it. All we need is 1 hour a week, and we believe that you can make a difference.
Tell me about how you measure success, because there's all kinds of ways. You had mentioned testing, but there's all kinds of ways to say we are achieving the outcome we want in these students. What are some of the things you're looking for, maybe measuring, maybe anecdotally, that you're looking for in your students?
The main goal, as I stated before, is to get them to be ready for third grade. And if they're ready for third grade, then that means they've acquired 300 sight words. So we want each second grader to leave our support with 300 or more sight words. Then they're ready. The other things that we look for is that they leave us with confidence. They leave us participating more in class, because what I know as an educator is that the more they participate, the more they become aware of what they don't know, which is more important than what they do know. Because teachers start the learning or the educating at the time or at the place where a student doesn't know, not at the place where they know. And for children, that's where their learning begins. And as they become self-aware, then they can advocate.
It's really interesting. I want to think about that for a second, because you know what you know, but nobody knows what they don't know. And so it sounds like you're really just trying to build a lifelong curiosity in these kids to learn more, to grow, and literacy opens the door to that.
Yes, but I want to tap into what you said about you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you do know what you don't know. Because we walk into a situation expecting to know it or to be able to at least achieve or conquer that situation. And when children are little, they get uncomfortable when they cannot. And that's what kids do know. They know when they're uncomfortable, or they know when something's not feeling right. And that's what I always taught my students. You know when it doesn't feel right. And what I would always tell my parents is your job is not to do the homework. Your job is not to teach. That's my job. Your job is to know when they cannot do it. And that's what I want you to tell me. And eventually, the children will learn how to do that very same thing. And that's the confidence that they will need to be successful students.
You want your kid to be successful, and I think that there is more pressure on parents than there should be, that if your kid's not doing well, or they're maybe not an A and B student, that makes you as a parent look less than.
Yeah, I think that parents and educators alike would have to reevaluate what the purpose of homework is. If homework is for the learning to take place, then that's one thing. But if homework is to reinforce what has already been done in the classroom and the child can't do it, that's a whole nother thing. That's a learning moment for the teacher, and it's a learning opportunity for the student. And that's how we need to see it. And that's what we provide at Arise2Read, extra learning opportunities, 30 minutes of just one-to-one individualized support.
My heart was really lit on fire for this literacy initiative when I first heard about it. There's so much going on in the world that will break our hearts.
Yeah.
And so much of it feels absolutely outside our control. Literacy feels like something we can do something about. And the way that you handle literacy at Arise2Read feels I know you've put a lot of work into it, and it takes a lot of work to make something look easy. And I know it's not easy and a cure-all, but gosh, you've got a system in place that is making massive change in the lives of these kids, one kid at a time. And it's going to have generational impact on them and their families. And so literacy feels like something we can do something about. So if somebody is hearing this and says, I agree, my heart is on fire, I'm feeling that nudge, what are some ways that they could get involved or support Arise to Read in your mission?
Well, there are 3 ways that we tell every person who asks about getting involved. The first thing that we ask people to do, because we are indeed a Christian organization, we say, pray for us. Pray for our program specialists, our coaches, the children, the teachers, and the administrators. Pray for everyone involved in making this a success. The second thing we say is that you can participate. You can become a coach. You can work directly with 2 lovely children and help their future become brighter. The final thing we say is, if you can't pray, but you can, or if you feel like you can't participate, this thing you might be able to do. We ask them to provide. Make a donation to Arise to Read so that we can continue doing the work that so tremendously positively impacts the lives of the children that we work with every day.
If you had a magic wand and you could suddenly make everyone understand X about literacy, X about the families and the children and the school districts you serve, what do you wish people knew that you just know that they're missing?
I think people miss the fact that we can all do something. They hear the numbers and they see the crime and they see all of the adverse effects that not being able to read causes, and they feel like there's nothing that can be done. But we can all do something. And that's the thing I wish everyone knew.
I love that you have a faith-minded mission, and that's where this started for me, and that's where my heart is here, because the Bible tells us that Jesus is the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And
the Word was made flesh, and the Word walked among us.
He came to us.
Yep.
And it's no surprise to me that the enemy of our souls would be against literacy, that would not want people to be able to read the Word, because then they can't read the true Word. And at least for me, this felt like a faith issue. How can we spread truth? How can we want kids to read the truth and know that they are loved beyond comprehension and expect them to know this if we don't give them the tools to read it on the page? And so I think that this is an important issue for everyone. I also really encourage the faith-minded community to think about the fact of what we're setting kids up for in their souls if we don't teach them how to read.
Well, we're definitely not giving them the opportunity to choose the Lord. But you bring up a very important mission. It's the second portion of what Arise to Read actually does. We do have Bible clubs.
Tell me more.
We have Bible clubs after school in several elementary schools where they learn the gospel. They learn to disciple. They learn how much God really loved us by sending his son. They learn about the Lord Jesus Christ.
That is my favorite type of love. It is servant leadership. You're going in and serving and eliminating barriers, and then just offering opportunity for those that want it to come and hear more about why you care in the first place. And I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe that the church has abdicated their authority in a lot of these issues. And so I love that you're using community organizations, faith-based organizations to fight this. But I also love that you're being honest about why you care. I think that's very brave, especially in schools and public schools, because most of us don't feel like that's even an option to get to do that. And so I commend you for that. That's not an easy thing to do.
Well, what I would have to say to that is that I never do anything alone. The Lord is always with me. And from the time that I was very young, I knew that I could be a teacher. And when I say that, I'm not talking about in a traditional classroom. Everywhere I went, I was trying to show someone how to do something or teach someone about something. Education was in me. And it is indeed my purpose to do exactly what I am doing. And if I don't do it, I will have left something on the table, and I can't. I have to do it all. And if I don't do this work, then all the people who are assigned to me will miss out on what they're supposed to get and won't be able to go where they're supposed to go for their purpose if I don't do mine.
When did that light bulb go off for you, that this was your purpose? You said you always had education in your heart as something that you knew that you had a passion for, but was there a light bulb moment?
So first I'll say I moved from Memphis in 2011. I went back to Southern Illinois where I got my degree because I felt like the Lord was calling me back there so that I could give back to the community that helped make me who I was. I spent 13 years there. Last October, I was off work because I wasn't feeling well. And then I had a dream. And in that dream, I was in Memphis, and I was in the room with one of my very close friends. We were celebrating some achievement that she had gotten. Immediately when I woke up, I knew that God was saying, now is the time for you to go back to Memphis. I didn't have a job, but I called her and I said, hey, let me tell you the dream. And I told her the dream, and she said, does that mean you're coming back to Memphis? Does that mean you're going to be here with us? And I said, I don't have a job. She told me about an opening at Arise2Read, and I'm like, what is that? You know, Arise2Read wasn't a thing when I was here before. She told me about it. In fact, a mutual friend of hers, her friend, who I was a colleague of when I was here before, was the executive director. We connected, and she told me all about it. I knew it would be perfect for me because at that time, I had moved up in the school district I was in. So I was the director of student services for the school district, all the social emotional things. And so it made me a good fit for this because I had the education plus the trauma background and all of that. And I met Donna Gaines. We did not connect on education. We did not connect on what I know how to do. We connected on who I was in Christ, who I am in Christ. And she had been praying, and God answered.
He literally moved you from Illinois to Memphis, and all the breadcrumbs in between. Yes. He doesn't waste a step.
Not at all. And I was not looking to go anywhere. But I am very obedient to the voice of the Lord. He showed me, and I followed.
What a story. And your obedience, your willingness to be brave, because I think obedience is bravery, is changing the lives of hundreds of kids. And not just hundreds of kids, hundreds and hundreds of mentors and community organizations and churches each year in this community. I love that you shared it with me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Because you talked about obedience. There's a scripture that says, obedience is better than a sacrifice. And what I always say, sometimes obedience is the sacrifice. And God honors both. And I have learned in all of my years of walking with him is that if I am obedient to him, then my sacrifice is going to be worth it. And I'll see the fruit of that obedience.
He equips those he calls.
Yeah.
And he will never ask you to step out in faith to do something he has not already prepared the way for you to do. And I think your journey to Arise to Read, everything that you're trying to achieve, whether it be things that you can measure through numbers of sight words and all of these metrics, or whether it be the intangibles of building confidence or changing the life of a buddy or a coach, is really powerful. And it's clear that he equipped you for a time such as this,
Yes.
in a place such as this. I could talk to you all day, and I'm sad that we only have this amount of time together, but I do want to do one thing we end our podcast with is a short game
Okay.
of fill in the blank.
All right.
I don't have a list of sight words for you to use, so you'll have to come up with them from your own bank in your head. But I'm going to read a sentence to you and then give you a blank, okay? The biggest challenge in early literacy today is blank.
The biggest challenge in early literacy today is time. I think as an educator, I always believed that we spent so much time in early education on so many things. I wish, if I had my dream, the focus would be reading and math, and then just feed the other things into that, as opposed to having a time for all of the other things. Of course, we need like music and PE and art, but if we could fit science and social studies within the reading, that would give teachers more time to be able to give the students those foundational skills they need in reading.
It's really powerful. If every child could read at grade level, blank.
If every child could read at grade level, then the possibilities would be unlimited.
Your work touches my heart in a way that I can hardly describe. I'm not going to try. I don't have words today, and I will just bumble through it. But thank you for what you're doing. And I just am really hopeful that in our time together, we have just begun to scratch the surface of what a pervasive, intense issue this is.
Yeah.
But with a heart to serve, whether it be to pray, to participate, or to provide, everyone can get involved. This is everyone's issue. This isn't just your issue. This isn't just Memphis's issue.
It's societal and national.
It is all of our issue. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.